Google Play Store drama. I saw I saw that Google had announced something about not supporting non-custodial wallets, and then very quickly walked it back. But I don't know all of the details of that. Have you guys followed this one closely?
Fairly closely. Yeah, a few days ago, Marty Bent tweeted it, I think, um, and the Rage Media had an article covering it. And if you went to Google's or the Play Store's help page, it was pretty clear language that if you have a cryptocurrency wallet, it has to, and then they did a country by country breakdown what the requirements were. And I mean, I looked at the US and Europe, and you had to be like FinCEN, or you basically had to be like a licensed money business. And in Europe, I think you had to, be regulated through the new MICA, or Micah, I don't know how they say it, but different regulations, which would mean like all self-custody wallets would be banned or the implication is that they'd be banned from the Play Store. So if that were actually the case, it would be a pretty dramatic event. So a lot of people in Bitcoin, tweeted out concern. Were kind of aghast by that. And then Google did respond from some seemingly official Google Twitter account. I'd never heard of it before, though, but saying that it was like a error oversight, and they're going to correct the help content. They did update the help content with like a little call out saying it doesn't apply to self-custody wallets. Although then I just tweeted asking, what about like Liquid-based wallets or eCash-based wallets or Spark-based wallets?
They probably don't even know what that is.
They probably don't. Yeah. So I mean, I'm certain the Google Play
Like,
Store
okay, nerd.
people don't have an appreciation for the spectrum of trust with different wallets, right? But if I had an eCash wallet that was in the App Store or any other type of wallet like that, I would definitely want to learn more. Or I'd probably want to go educate the Google Play Store folks on all these nuances and assure them that my category of wallet is also acceptable and should be not outright banned from the App Store or the Play Store, and also
so
that I
initial...
wouldn't have to become an MSB. Although some of those get into gray area, right? So
was the initial announcement targeting self-custody cryptocurrency wallets, or was it more like a broad thing that didn't appropriately carve out?
The latter. It said cryptocurrency wallets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exchanges and wallets.
So they were probably trying to create a new policy for exchange and like entities that really are money transmitters, and they sort of inadvertently...
I think the reality is there's a bunch of fraud in app stores, right? In general, certainly around wallets. Because if I'm a criminal and want to steal money, what better way than like put a app in the store that's a wallet that looks legitimate, or steal someone else's like brand, trick a bunch of people, steal all their money. So it's right. The Wallet Scrutiny Project that Spiral funds finds a lot of these apps. So I think it's quite common. So I suspect Google Play Store is just responding to that. Like I suspect that they are like well-intentioned, trying to eliminate the fraud. They probably do not understand all the nuances for all these different types of wallets and trust levels. And maybe just like, so knee-jerk said, oh, well, you gotta be regulated.
Right.
Then you're good. Not regulated, then you're not good. And so they've made an improvement, but there's still some gray area. But I think the bigger the bigger issue, which we don't have, maybe a bigger topic for another day, is just like the power of two stores and how they could just like completely change an industry. Like imagine if all the wallets were banned. Then on Apple, you'd be totally screwed unless you jailbreak your phone. And then on Android, everyone would have to adapt to sideloading APKs, which isn't that hard, but it certainly adds friction to the experience.
Well, so this to me is the big thing, right? So like, it's not the first time we've gone through this. There've been wallet, scares in the past. All the Nostr apps, right? When Will couldn't get Damus in the App Store. Like to me, you hit the nail on the head. Like the danger here is the arbitrary and capricious nature, or just the arbitrary nature of any two companies having complete control over whatever people can use over their phone. Like that's crazy. And to me, the thing that I keep coming back with, I think the big question here is, if we continue down the path we're currently on and your only option is Apple or Play Store, then it seems to me like it's a question of when, not if, like something really bad happens, whether it's a government directed attack or it's something that's kind of accidental, or it's just like we were saying, like, it's like we talked about last week, is that the internet becomes KYC and it's probably good intention, probably, maybe. And all of a sudden it's like, as Will, put very eloquently on Damus, all of a sudden you have to scan your eyeball and your anus to be able to access the internet, and here we are, right? And so, like, I will say each and every one of these events. I remember Million from Primal said this a couple, maybe a year ago. We were asking, like, hey, like, should we capitalize more on everything that's happening in Brazil when they were cracking down? He's like, look, guys, the rug pulls are just going to keep happening, keep accelerating. Everyone is a new chance for Nostr to kind of, hopefully it'll be a little bit better, a little bit more powerful, to kind of reassert itself. I think, and even in something else you said, Steve, even in your preamble to that, you made the point, you're like, yeah, we think Google's fixed it, but it's from some Google account I've never heard of. Same thing. How the hell do we even know on the platforms, or decentralized media platforms, that Google is actually the one saying this, right? So this made me, increasingly bullish on things like Nostr. I'm glad that something like ZapStore is still around. I still can't use it because it's only for, I guess, side-loaded on Android. But I'm glad that that's still going, and more of these, I think every Nostr app, or the majority of the Nostr apps that most people use right now, are available on ZapStore. ZapStore, for those who don't know, you sign with your Nostr keys, your private keys. When you publish, everything is accessible. You can have customizable algorithms to, feature apps or decide which ones are frauds or which ones are not. So that's exciting to me.
And it's distributing PWA apps, right? Not native mobile apps.
I think they're doing native for Android. So the ones that you have to use the APK for, though.
Okay.
He was considering PWA, and maybe he's gone more down that route. But I think this is the broader question. And DK, maybe you have a thought, because I know you've thought a lot about PWAs. How the hell do we get out of this duopoly? Like, I love ZapStore, I love Nostr. It's a great start. But like, if the only game in town is either have to like sideload stuff, like, okay, some nerds are going to be able to free themselves, but most people aren't, or PWAs, and like, yeah, why haven't PWAs taken off? Like, maybe, and I think there's still an opportunity, but it doesn't seem like it's getting that much traction. The bigger question in my mind is it still possible? And Steve, I know you thought a lot about this. Did you say, fuck it, launch a new phone, new open source operating system to compete head on with Apple and Google? Maybe it looks like a long shot today, but like, if they keep cracking down over time, you can keep having better and freer and more profitable product experiences over there. Is that the long-term answer, or is it something else? Or with AI, are the app stores, potentially got to become irrelevant, and no, actually we need to be looking to the future, and it's really going to be the agent, the assistant that I'm interfacing with, and letting that agent access things freely, and forget the old world, let the old world die out. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think I would say the only thing worth spending time on is that last one, because it's so obviously going to happen. And so how can you usher it in a way that makes sense for people? But I think the concept of have another app store with another phone and just kind of replay history, I think rarely makes sense. It's attractive because it's familiar. So we're like, oh, let's do the thing that we're all familiar with and do it more open or more, generous in a way. But I think the main story here is AI.
Yeah.
And I think, what I want on my phone really is I want a button like a Siri, but I want to actually work, right? And I want to be able to just say what I want and like, hey, take a note on thing X. Hey, like drop me into the experience where I'm like navigating that world, or I'm navigating this world and give me directions to a thing. I never actually want to like swipe open the thing,
Yeah.
choose a specific app to do a specific function, and then try to like navigate through that app. I just want to like will it into existence as I need it, or sort of conjure it up as I need it, and maybe even will new software into existence as I need it. But those are all things that AI is such a disruptive vector to. So I it may be that Apple builds this device, maybe that the Google or Samsung or somebody else builds this device, maybe that OpenAI. I think OpenAI is claiming to want to do a phone like thing. I think we're at a moment right now where you could really rethink what the device is and then what the OS is and sort of how it accesses the concept of apps. So I think it's very exciting, but I would almost like spend like no energy on trying to like fix the
Yeah.
problems of history and spend all of your energy on how do you usher in the new stuff in a way that aligns with the ideals that you want to promote in the world.
So let's talk more about that then. So I agree with you 100%. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what that form factor might look like, and maybe the sort of payments, the Bitcoin stuff is just plumbing in the background. But if you were to start something, or like where would you even start thinking about what that looks like today? Do you think that the best place is to try and actually create the assistant, and in the background create the plumbing that's using the MCP servers that are monetized or something like that for the assistant to be able to access different agents? And how do you make sure, or how do you try and shift or nudge the scale towards open source in that world?
I mean, I think, yeah, I've found the form factor of glasses or maybe the AirPod type, headphones experiences like a really good form factor. I think the thing that I think it really needs is it needs some sort of camera that's really high quality,
Mm.
and I think the Meta glasses I think are sort of a good step towards that, but probably not going to be super open. We'll see. But like I think you need to sort of reinvent form factors. You need connectivity. So how is your connectivity going to work? Is it going to go to AT&T and Verizon towers? Are you going to go to Starlink? Are you going to go somewhere else? Are you going to sort of have MVNOs that abstract those and kind of multi-source them the way like the Google what's the offering? Is it Fi?
Yeah, I've got
Yeah.
five. It's not
So
very good.
yeah, but I mean that it's like an attempt to try to multi-source the actual towers and networks. But I think that just doing another phone doesn't feel like you can. I don't know. To me, it doesn't feel as attractive as like the idea of will we have something of a new wearable that will help us do that, and then the main interface of the wearable in and out is mostly through
Voice
voice. Yeah.
and send image. But okay, so that's all interesting to me. How do you shift towards open? Like, so let's say Meta and Apple are both going to compete. I've heard repeatedly that Tim Cook only cares about competing with Zuck on these glasses, whatever that looks like. Fine. So they're
Yeah.
each going to go for a closed version. Maybe you never know with Meta's new take. What does the open version look like that, and how do you? What are the advantages, or how do you make sure you can tap the advantages of a fully open developer ecosystem?
Can I interject really quick with a
Please.
question?
Yeah.
How many times have either of you seen someone in the wild wearing Apple Vision Pro in 2025?
I don't
Yeah,
think it works
exactly.
in the wild. It works like in your house. So you have to be at the person's house.
Well, I had my first experience
Oh, okay.
in Atlanta.
Who's the psycho?
Miles and I went running a couple mornings, and then we went to a Starbucks, and there was a guy in Starbucks sitting there wearing his Vision Pro.
Nice.
And it made me realize I've seen more people in the wild wearing Google Glass in my lifetime than Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah.
Just saying. Anyway,
Well,
back to your more serious question.
No, and to be clear, I'm not convinced that this is the right form factor. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Like, I still think there's a world. I don't know if I'll ever wear the glasses, but like, would I like to have like earbuds and I could just talk to my dude? Sure.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's just a better set of earphones that have like, and I think if you want open, you need the LLM that basically controls the whole thing to be switchable at least, right?
Yeah.
So maybe a default pairs with an OpenAI or an Anthropic or Gemini or something. But you could swap it out. Same as like in a browser, you can swap out which search engine you use. Of course, everybody uses the defaults. But I think if you want open, you want to start to move towards that. You can't swap out the App Store on iPhone. You have to use the App Store. You can't use really any alternative. But I think if you can swap it out, that's like one step towards open. But it's hard to have like an open hardware spec that everybody builds to that lets open source software and open choices on everything without some real ideology kind of
If only
delivering
there
that.
was a public company we knew that would ever consider doing something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean,
but
look at
I mean,
look at Proto compared to history.
but what do you think is like? So yes, if you get the right ideological founder, that's awesome. What do you think though is like the right starting point? Like, I mean, one reason to try and do this is because, for example, if you were to access, I don't know, all of the content on something like Nostr or all of the apps that people have developed, now there's hundreds, if not thousands, of Nostr apps out there. Okay, that's interesting because now I don't have to like start from scratch. So maybe that's kind of the way in is my LLM can access all of these other tools that either ecosystem has, or like some of them will have it, but it'll be super proprietary, like with Apple's or Facebook's. So maybe just like the way to get this started is to have more of our developers developing sort of LLM tools, maybe with monetized with the paid MCP servers. But like with this kind of like vision in mind that eventually there's going to be like one master assistant for every person or company that's going to access these tools.
I mean, I've got one for you,
Please.
a nice starting point, which is kind of inspired by what you just said. But I'd love to see. I don't know if you've watched much. Like I think Anthropic calls them artifacts. I think OpenAI calls it something else. But they basically are little mini software programs that run within kind of the traditional chat interface. So you don't deploy them to a unique URL on the web. You don't you don't deploy it to an iOS App Store app that people download in the traditional way. You just like kind of conjure something up in a chat session, and then the software is there in the session. I think workable. So it's like almost like a mini app that you can use real time. But I don't know if those live anywhere persistently, or if you can access it later, or if they have data paired with them. Like they're very easy to make, but they're probably kind of like ephemeral, which can be good for some applications. But I wonder if there were ones that got made. Like where should those be shared? We don't have a common place to share those things. And I bet that sometimes people come up with things, they iterate them and make them better, and they could be useful by millions of people, but we don't have a way to make them available to millions of people. We don't have any kind of like sharing hub or infrastructure. So I could imagine, to me, it feels like Nostr would be a good public place to be able to have those things live, kind of a public app store like thing. But I could almost imagine like a client where you could prompt something into existence in a very lightweight way. You don't have to worry about deploying it to a URL so much on the web, but you deploy it to kind of like a Nostr npub. And then maybe that client or a separate client can kind of pull all of the little mini apps together and surface them in an app store like interface, maybe. But anybody who wants could write a new app store like Nostr app that accesses all the same underlying data. So it's not controlled by the sort of app store. It's just discovered, curated.
It's a great idea. I love that.